Here we go with part 2 of a podcast on the 26th of August 2021, and this one is a very special edition. We've got our first special guest of the season, and it couldn't come any more special. Welcome to the podcast, Steve Clark.
Lovely to see you, fellas.
It's great to see you.
Put in, Clarky.
Right, I'll run through your inquisitors. You got Lee Wood over there in the blue shirt.
Yeah.
You two know each other well. And Jake Ellacott, who you won't know.
And I've seen Jake on these podcasts a few times.
All right, okay.
I have watched them.
Well done. Well, in tribute to you being on the show tonight, Steve, Jake's actually gone out and bought one of your wigs.
I like it.
Oh, dearie me.
I can't see the top of your head, Dave, actually, on this screen.
There you go. It's getting there.
Right, yeah.
I'm working on it.
You're not far off.
I'll slump down like me. Is that better? Right. Well, your record, Clarky. Second highest appearances, 488. Second highest goal scorer, 322. Most of which was scored by defenders, but you claimed them.
I would have had a lot more, actually.
What, if we'd been a bit more generous?
Yes.
But you come from a sporting background, didn't you? Your dad set the benchmark, didn't he?
He certainly did. He played most sports, but he's renowned more for his rugby league, representing Hull Kingston Rovers, and played in the Challenge Cup final in 1964 against Widnes, but unfortunately on the losing side. So,
which was at a little ground, wasn't it? No one's ever heard of.
Well, in those days, big crowds.
Wembley. Yeah.
And, that was something that I wanted to repeat, but got about 20, 30 minutes away from it, didn't we? Well,
yeah, well, I was going to come on to that later, but Lee was there, Forest Green Rovers, the FA Trophy semi-final.
Yeah.
2-0 up.
Well,
and it did look like we were there, didn't it?
I think for me, it was probably one of my biggest disappointments in my time at St Albans and all the clubs I played for, really. We were so close to it, and it's something that meant an enormous amount to me and, all the players and all the club and, all the fans. It would have been such a wonderful day out. But unfortunately, not to be.
Of course, you were, 35 at the time, so you probably thought that was your last chance gone of getting to a trophy final at Wembley. But a year later, you're in the final again with Canby Island. Played at Villa Park, unfortunately, and
yes.
Jeff King left you outside, didn't he?
Well, it was a very, very different experience there. I didn't expect to be in the side. I'd spent most of the season, a bit player, really, on and off the bench. When I did get a chance, scoring goals. But no, it was, it's a totally different environment to the one I'd experienced at St Albans. Very different culture. Just the whole setup really was so different. And, it was nice to get a trophy medal, but it means very, very little to me. It's in the sock drawer somewhere. But, if it had been St Albans, it would be up on the wall. It would have been so much more to me.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the trophy run, Lee?
Thanks for sort of bringing all that up, Tav, to be honest. No, but this, on the whole, really positive memories. There's Ashton away, and then there's Boston. I have to remember, I've mentioned this on the podcast previously, Clarky, that when we had the replay at Ashton at home, and it was the snow day, and you scored, and you sort of dived onto this big mound of snow, and you winded yourself quite badly. And it was just, I just thought, oh my God, this is going to be absolute carnage, because you got up quite sort of sheepish, and I'm like, oh my God, our star striker's injured himself dumping onto snow. I mean, it's just, you couldn't really write it properly, could you?
You didn't see me do that again, did you?
No, we didn't, no.
It was one of those celebrations, man. Maybe not next time.
Yeah. But on the whole, the memories were fantastic. The fan engagement, the whole city just came together, didn't they, as one, and they packed the park. And the squad we had as well. The squad we had, I know that you've sort of played in some absolutely fantastic teams. But that squad, it had something about it, there's a youth and experience, that old sort of cliche we always sort of try and implement, but it really did work. There was a nice balance to it. And unfortunately, it just wasn't to be, as Clarky said.
we had some very, very good players, Mick Bodley at the back, Ashley Vickers, Julian McDougall up front with me. We had such an opportunity there. I don't remember a great deal about the first game, the first half of the semi-final. I remember the second game in lots of details. Us going 2-0 up, and so on top, and even chances the second half, but it was not to be. And I still just think back to that. What could we have done? What could I have done? Should I have trained more preceding that? And it's just one of those things you've got to let go, and it's so frustrating because we were so close to that.
All 3 Forest Rovers goals, Steve, all of them were deflected. It was incredible.
Oh, I know. It's we had one disallowed for some strange reason. I never did quite understand why. I think if you attack the ball and you win it, you'll know if you've fouled somebody in the process. And it just didn't seem to be a foul at all. So it was very strange. And I think if we got that third goal, I think we'd have gone on to win it. And
it would take the wind out of their sails, wouldn't it?
Yes, I think it certainly would. And I think, that was the same with their goal just before half-time. That certainly stunned us, really.
Those 2 games both got good crowds, of course. Another game that got a very big crowd. 92-93, we're challenging Cheshire United for the Eastern League title. We were 16 points behind at one time. Come February, if we'd beaten them down the park, we would have gone top. And the crowd of getting on for 3,000. Bernard announced it was just over 3,000, of course. But you almost missed it, didn't you? Because you're a school teacher in Bishop Stortford, but you had a school trip somewhere in Europe.
Yes, I was head of PE in those days at St Mary's Catholic School in Bishop Stortford, and as part of that, I ran an annual ski trip to Hinterstoder in Austria, and we used to take 2 coach loads of students and staff, and have a wonderful time there. And that was the Saturday. The kids left on the Friday and arrived on the Saturday by coach, 24-hour coach it used to be. And I was leading it, so I should have been responsible for all of that, but unfortunately the game cropped up and on the Saturday, so we looked at what we could do, and in the end it was decided that I would fly out straight after the game. So
John Colfer sorted it out, didn't he?
I believe so, and I'm delighted to say it actually all worked. So I think as soon as the final whistle went off, I shot. Mum and Dad took me down to Heathrow, got on the plane, flew across to Austria, and then got a taxi from there to Winchester, arriving early in the Sunday morning, and and then had a week skiing with the kids, etc.
That Cheshire game, a 1-1 draw. You scored with a cracking header. Hopefully you remember it because it's such a big occasion. But also, I think it was John Sherwood's photo of you racing towards the York Road Terrace in arms raised, and all this crowd along the terrace by the side. It's a terrific picture.
I think actually it was a left foot strike, if I remember rightly. It wasn't a header, I don't think. No, it was a left foot strike. I didn't have many of those in my career. But it came deflected off a defender to me, and I just swung at it, and it connected, and it went in the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah, right.
It went in, so that's all that matters. It went in. So
and I think actually just before the final whistle, there was a chance for a second one, but I put it over the top. So again, it should have been, but I don't think that would have made any difference to us going up anyway because of the tree situation, etc.
But what about you with your job, though? Had we gone up to the Conference National, would that have created problems for you?
Possibly. The schools that I've taught in were always very, very supportive of what I was doing. And, I was always giving a lot of time back to the school with, extracurricular activities, Saturday mornings, evenings, as you say, school holidays where I was taking, I took a ski trip in Feb half term and then a summer water sports trip in the summer. So, they were very good to me and they would have supported me through that. But, if we were leaving every other week, sort of mid-afternoon, it could have caused problems.
Can I just ask, sorry, Tanner, can I just ask, one of the questions that we were asked to ask you today, Steve, is the fact that were you ever close at all to perhaps joining a conference side, or even was there any interest in league clubs? I know that obviously one of your strike partners, Dino, he was sort of snapped up as well. And when players like Barry Blackman came into this, they were sort of creating waves. Coventry was sort of taking in. Did there any interest in terms of your
I think
role?
there were a few. I think there were a couple when I was at Wivenhoe, and then I came across to St Albans. I had a trial with Northampton at one stage, and it was just playing for the reserves, I think, against Derby County. We played, and then there was, I think, Barnet were interested, and I think that was at the time of sort of Barry Fry, etc. And it was always going to be a big risk to do that. You know, I was very happy teaching and also playing non-league football, and I could do really both. And I think, you know, I've always set out wanting to do my very best in terms of, you know, my performance. And I think, you know, going to St Albans, you know, yes, it was £4,000 to start with or whatever, but, you know, I felt that I'd repaid that, and that I felt, you know, confident in that area, and felt that, you know, I had done a good job, and I continued to do that. I think if I'd moved up, that would have been a risk. And, you know, I was already in a very good job. You know, I really loved the school that I was working at. Yeah, it was going to be a big risk if I was to make that step. So, you know, there were possibilities. I think Cockers spoke at one of the dudes we had at St Albans a few years ago, and he said that, you know, West Ham, Harry Redknapp had spoken to him about me, and he said, and Cockers just dismissed it and said, no, he's not interested. I never even knew about that until he said that evening. So, you know, would I have? I don't honestly know. You know, I was very happy at St Albans, and, you know, that's why I stayed for 9 years. I possibly could have gone from club to club, you know, but no, I was more than happy doing what I was doing, enjoying my football, enjoying, you know, the sort of the family environment at St Albans, and, you know, that was enough for me, really.
When you joined us from Wivenhoe, Steve, I think Mitch also brought Paul Price, Gary Brooke, and John Lacey. So how did he convince you, in particular, don't worry about the other three, how did he convince you the move to St Albans was the right move for you at that age?
Well, I think Jimmy King also came across.
Yes, of course,
And, you know, he certainly made me think, you know, we can continue this partnership. I already knew, having played, I think, the last game of the previous season at St Albans, so I knew what the surface was like. I knew what the club was like. You know, Mitch was a salesman. You know, it didn't take a lot for him to convince me that, you know, this was a good opportunity. And you know, I already knew probably half the squad because they'd moved with me from Wivenhoe.
And that first season, it didn't kick off too well, did it? We struggled that first season for some reason, but the second year, 92, 93, fantastic. It
was a strange season, and I can't remember the other manager. Was Johnny Mitchell. Who was his deputy?
Alan Dawson. He had Duke, he had Alan Dawson, Steve Kettridge after him.
It took a long time for the Wivenhoe boys to sort of embed, I suppose, into that club and into the team. And I think there was felt there was a rift between the Wivenhoe boys, that, you know, the big time Charlies, and, you know, the St Albans players. And, you know, that was mentioned a few times, but, you know, it took a while for that to settle down and to bed.
I have to say, Steve, that the 92-93 season is going to be synonymous with yourself and the players like Jimmy King, Sean Brett, Cockers, etc. And obviously there were goals being banged in left, right and centre. Did you ever sort of keep an eye on what the other... So we had sort of Carl Shulton, we had Bolton was playing for them and he was sort of banging them in. You had Martin Gittings at Stevenage. You had, I think, who was the leading scorer at Chesham? Wasn't St Hillier, was it? It was someone else. But did you ever sort of like just sort of keep an eye on what they're sort of doing, or?
Yeah, I think so. You know, within the programme, there would be updates as to who was leading scorer in the league, etc. And so, yeah, you'd glance through that, you'd see that. But, you know, I always wanted to go out and score as many goals as possible, claim any goal that was anywhere near me. You know, that's what I always wanted to do, season here, season there. You know, I was aware that Bolton was doing very well at Carshalton. And I think, that was one of my favourite games, actually, the Carshalton. Was that the 5-3 that season?
So it's 3-0 down, and then
and I think Jimmy Bolton had got all three of those, and Muddy had been asked to man mark him. So getting towards the end of the season, and his tally went up by 3 by half time. I was not impressed with Muddy, and but thankfully, we got 5 back in the second half, and it was a fantastic turnaround because the crowd were giving us plenty of stick at half time, and to turn it round was unbelievable. And it's one of those games that I will always remember as just being so entertaining, and we could have had more, to be honest.
Oh, good. It was Grand National Day. We finished it like thoroughbreds. They finished it like donkeys.
Oh, dearie me.
What's up, Jake?
So, Steve, just throughout, for that season, Dino was obviously your partner in crime up top. Yeah. And over the course of your career at City, you've had some amazing strike partners, Ray Blackman, Rob Howarth, but one striker in particular that I want to sort of bring up is Brian Steen.
Yeah.
Because that one season, absolutely electric. Both of you were just goal crazy. And it was at a time when there was an innocence to us in terms of it was that Cockers was in charge and that free-flowing football. It was just majestic to watch, and it was so exciting. But the combination of yourself and Bruno up front really did hit it off, didn't it?
Yeah, he was obviously a fantastic player to play alongside and, learn from. And, he was clinical in front of goal, and it was great to have him up front with me. He didn't often pass that much to me, but, he was a great player, and he probably took a little bit the attention away from me in terms of defenders. And, as you said, that in that side, we were just so gung-ho. We would have 9 or 10 players racing forward. And, I remember Rizza always saying it was like the Alamo at the back because, a lot of those midfielders didn't track back. We were just so keen on attacking. And as a centre forward, it was just wonderful to play in a team like that because you got so many chances. And, it was a real joy. And again, probably one of the better seasons.
For poor Jake, he won't have known many of these players, but he would have heard the names of the likes of Alan Cochrane, Martin Duffield, yourself, Jimmy King. It's phenomenal to have 4 players like those in a non-league side, in the same side. You pay big money to see that sort of quality now.
Yeah, I think we were very blessed, really, in terms of the quality that we had there. And, all of them could deliver, wonderful by Duffield sort of smacking passes from the centre circle out wide to Jimmy King. He'd be taking on defenders and putting balls into the box. And it was just so entertaining and wonderful to be part of, really. And it made my job so much easier.
We were talking before you came on. That last summer, we put Ray Stanton's videos on YouTube from the early 90s. And of course, you feature in a lot of those. But what surprised us was a number of times you scored with a volley. You were pretty good at it, Steve.
I don't recall that, to be honest. I got the odd 1 or 2, but I think more would have come off my forehead. I think I scored most of my goals with my head. I wasn't renowned for jinking past players and, driving in shots from long range. I think most of them would have come in that 6-yard box. And, it was just, that was the sort of service I was getting, really quality balls into the box. And, I think that's what I enjoyed the most.
Can I just, Tabs, how many goals did Mr. Clark score for us?
How many score for us? Well, he claimed 322.
Right, so the best goal
should have had them all.
Right, yeah, the best goal
all legitimate
score, Clarky, was actually against us in the first game back when you played for Canterbury. There's an absolutely audacious volley from must have been about 25-30 yards out
at least
that. And I have to say, mate, I stood on the terrace and I applauded because it was just class, and it was that. Forgive me, it was that old master returning to sort of haunt his side, and it was just an absolutely amazing goal. But no one really sort of associated you with goals of that quality, shall we say? But again, it was a goal of the very highest order.
Yeah, I think those videos prove he could very much do it.
It was a surprise to me as well. But the first goal actually was something that I'd sort of gone through in my head a number of times over the summer, because I think as soon as the fixtures came out, I was aware that, Canvey against St Albans, second game of the season at Clarence Park, and Peter Risley, Muddy, they'd all been sending me a message about who was going to kick me up in the air and who was going to do this. And I'd sort of played out the game a number of times in my head, and I remember just thinking about if that ball was played back, I'd just side foot it, sort of strike it into the back of the net, and it actually happened. And it, you talk about mental rehearsal and going through these sorts of things. But the second goal, never even thought about, to be honest. I remember it popping down off, I think someone headed it back, the defender heading it back forward. And I just thought, I'm going to larry this. And I did. And I just let go, and it just flew over the top of the keeper, much to my surprise. But it was very sad in a way. But, it wasn't something that, I wanted to be doing. But, that was the situation, really.
You mentioned earlier about keeping an eye on goals, tallies and whatnot. I seem to recall a game against Hillingdon, the FA Cup, when you chipped in with a simple 6.
Yeah.
But you were unaware of you're only 1 goal short of Billy Minter's record of 7 in the FA Cup.
I was totally unaware of it. I don't think it would have changed things. I think, again, I was still looking to score every goal possible. I think actually I took a penalty, which was rare for me at that stage, to get a hat-trick in the first half. So that was unusual. And then, to go on and get 6, I didn't think anything of it. I was just delighted to be out there. And it was like training, really, just popping goals in left, right and centre. I did when I went to Aylesbury after Canvey, played in the FA Cup against Brentwood, and again got 6.
They said goals. 5 on their website, Steve.
No, it was 6. And he took me off with about 20 minutes to go. So I was then aware of the record of, George Best getting 6 in an FA Cup. So I was furious with it, but we were already 10 up or something, and he took me off. So not too pleased with that one, but St Albans totally
another big match for us, FA Cup again, back to 92-93, Telford United away.
Oh,
talk us through that one.
No, again, one of my top 5 or 6 games, I suppose. It was just great to go to a conference side. We're always up against it. We had Duffield getting injured in the warm-up, Johnny Colfer coming out the bar, and we had quite a young side really, but it was again a really enjoyable game. We got a penalty, I think, early on in the first half, which Cocker scored. And then they equalised because of, I think, a penalty given away by Big Bob at the back. And then, it went on late into the game, both sides attacking backwards and forwards. And I think into injury time, we got the opportunity to seal it. And, I think it was a throw-in into myself. I flicked it around the corner to Dean Williams. He held it up, laid it off to me. And again, I just put my laces through it underneath the keeper. And, the rest is history. What a wonderful finish to a game.
Do you remember the Bob Dell incident?
Sorry,
very quickly. Do you remember the Bob Dell incident in that game, Steve, with Ian Bember, I think it was, of Telford?
Was that the penalty or?
No, it was the
head
clash of heads.
Yeah, I think Bob tripped over something.
Yeah, of course he did. And he looked like he was going to get sent off. And Quincy, a physio, came on, and he could see what was in the referee's mind, and he kept saying to Bob, stay down, stay down, stay down. Yeah. And the referee took pity on him in the end and just gave him a free kick, I think, or a bounce up, or God knows what. Sorry, Lee, on you go.
Sorry, Tavs. No, I was just going to sort of say to Steve that, do you actually get an opportunity now just to sort of sit down? I can see you've got some sort of memorabilia and sort of shirts behind you. Just to sort of sit down and just contemplate the gravity of your impact on not only St Albans City, but obviously non-league football as a whole.
One of the things, we moved house in October. And so as part of that, it was really getting rid of a lot of the clutter and sort of finding all stuff that was in the loft. And, I had 130, 140 programs, from the 9 years that I was at St Albans. I always used to take a program, put it in my kit bag and, read it every now and again. But, I actually had an opportunity to sort them all out, go through them, read them. And they were brought back some great memories. And, I don't think actually that I was aware of the impact that I was having at St Albans. You know, I was just happy turning up week in, week out, wanting to play to the best of my ability, score goals, and, you know, see St Albans win. You know, I probably didn't even realise what was going on. You know, and I just went from season to season, enjoying it and making the most of the opportunity, really.
You mentioned before it was gung-ho under John Mitchell as manager. It's even more so under Cockers and Duffs, of course. Then you had the other end of the spectrum with Alan Randall and Gary Hill. How do you rate each individual one and the way they affected your game, Steve?
Well, I think, you know, if you look at how many appearances I had, how many goals I scored, you know, it's probably been similar, the number of appearances throughout those 9 seasons, but the number of goals fluctuates, you know, from sort of 28 to 56. And a lot was to do with the sort of the mentality of the side that we were, you know, that we had, and how entertaining we were. Yeah, and certain managers were a lot more cautious, and, you know, that didn't help me necessarily. You know, I think, you know, Alan Randall, Jimmy Neighbour, you know, they were a lot more cautious. And I think, you know, we struggled. And that may have been due to the players we had. You know, we didn't have that midfield that you spoke about earlier, where we could just go out and attack, because we had that quality. And so, yeah, it did change. Gary Hill, to be fair, you know, I think I scored 40 goals that season, you know, had a very successful season. And that was towards the end of my career. But, you know, he believed in me. I think I was taking all the penalties. And, you know, he just wanted me to just get in the box and score goals. You know, some of the other managers wanted me to sort of work harder across the line. And it meant then that I was sort of coming deeper to get the ball and not in the box, you know, where I should be scoring goals. So, yeah, it was different times. But, you know, to previous question there, you know, I was just doing what I thought was best and what the manager wanted. But, you know, sometimes it wasn't as successful as it had been in the past.
Were you always noted as a goal scorer when you were a kid at school?
To start with, when I was a kid, I played up front. When I went to university, I went to Chester, which was a PE college, and we played in, you know, the West Cheshire League, which was in Liverpool, which was quite entertaining and quite lively. We also played, you know, all the universities around that area, Loughborough, Leeds, etc. And I started off as sort of a midfielder. You know, when I played county football, I was midfield. When I went to college, I ended up playing, I think, left back, and then went to centre half. And throughout my time at Chester, I was a centre half, and I was captain of that side. And, you know, we had some, you know, real quality players up front who were ex-pros. You know, we had one who played for Wales, a young lad. So, you know, I was more than happy just to be in that side at the back, really. When I went to Exeter for my post-grad, I thought, no, I want to play up front. So I actually started up front, played for their first team, won the University Athletic League. So that's all the universities in the country playing up front. So, and that's where it came from, really. I just loved being up front, winning headers, winning the ball and scoring goals. And, you know, from then on, I never looked back. I think I played one game for St Albans at centre half for some reason. I don't know why.
It was away to Walton and Hersham, Steve. We only had 10 players that day, but of course you still scored.
I still scored, yeah. And thought, what the hell am I doing back here? But I think we lost that game, actually.
3-2, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's another game you might remember. We played, this is when Cockers and Duffs were managers. You know what's coming up.
Yeah.
We played Purfleet 2 weeks running. And in the second one, for the opening 10 minutes, he put the back four up front and you and the rest of the forwards at the back. Did you enjoy it?
Crazy idea. Because I remember about the first 10 minutes, we must have had 3 or 4 golden chances. And I thought, geez, if I'd have been up front, I'd probably had a hat-trick by now. But I can't remember who was up front, but it was probably Dean Murphy or somebody like that. And just thinking muddy and thinking, this isn't right. And so thankfully we changed it round. But I could understand what Cockers was doing. You know, I think they felt that they'd heard what our team formation was going to be. They'd listened in on this, that and the other. But, you know, he thought, let's just turn it around. And everyone, okay, let's do it. But, yeah, I did rue those first 10 minutes that chances were flying.
You're right. Dean Murphy missed the sitter. Do you remember it, Lee?
I do. And we're just thinking, what am I drunk?
hell's
What is going on
on
here? I mean, it's like, some sort of, you always sort of talk about Guardiola and Klopp being like, above their time, and these tactical sort of like nuances that they have to implement into the game. But this was something else, and I'm pretty sure that Cockers didn't even know himself what he was sort of doing. So it was always hard.
I think Cockers did something similar. First game of the season, I cannot remember who we played, but we're all there for the team talk, gearing up ready for this first game of the season. And he says, I just want you to settle down. And he got a bottle of red wine out, uncorked it, and started pouring, I think, 11 or 12 small glasses of red wine. And so, I don't know, he wanted us to go out with a real spirit and all this. So we all sipped this red wine thinking, what the hell are we doing here? Anyway, we went out and lost the game. I can't remember, it was 2-0 or something. He hauled us in the next day for training on the Sunday. And we're thinking, it didn't start off the game too well with us, having a drink of red wine and thinking it was all going to be this great. And, but it was a strange start to the season, that one.
Well, it worked for John Colfer at Telford, didn't it? Allegedly, he'd had, 2 pints on the burger.
He was a different breed. And I think it was red wine. He probably had 3 pints or something. But settled his nerves.
Back in 1999, I think it was, the club sent out a Christmas card to every other club in the division. I think maybe a league above or beyond. And a picture of you scoring, as you always do. And it said, behind every great goalkeeper is a ball from Steve Clark. Now, is there a particular goalkeeper, whether it be Andy Lomas, Les Cleveley, Pape, is there a particular goalkeeper that you enjoyed playing against?
Well, I think it'd have to be Les Cleveley, really, because you knew that you were going to get a chance, and I don't know how many goals I scored against him, but we certainly had our ups and downs. And, I think it went from that first season where I think I chased a long ball through and he came out and he absolutely clattered me off the ball, knees first, and I just remember thinking, let's get a few over on him. And we did, time after time. And he was like a pantomime villain, really, but he was certainly great to play against. A keeper. I think we played Chesham once and Bruce Grobbler was in goal for them. And again, what an opportunity as a striker to play against, someone like that. And again, you just thought, right, you're going to get a chance. He's going to do something stupid. And I don't think I scored that day, but, it was a great experience to play against him.
Well, that game against Carshalton, that was your debut. We won 2-1 down there. It was your debut. It wasn't our first match of the season. No, it wasn't your debut. You scored your first goal that day. You got a second goal, I think. But that was a penalty. Your record against Carshalton was 12 goals in 12 games. Pretty good. Yeah, well, but it's not your best record. You got 12 in... hang on, I'm going to get this here. 16 in 15 games against Dulwich. 10 in 10 against Harrow. 12 in 19 against Hendon, 16 in 17 against Hitchin. I think you got a couple of hat-tricks against them.
Yeah.
And Kingstonian. No, we're going to come on to them. 12 in 10 games against them. There was one season we did them 5-3 down at their place and 8-3 down the park. You scored a total of 6 goals in those 2 games.
And, they were a big club, weren't they, in those days? I remember them, sort of being at the very top of the table. And so, for some reason, it just happened on those days. But, Kingstonian, I used to enjoy playing against Wokingham, Dulwich, as you say, and Hitchin. So there were a number of clubs that, I just enjoyed playing against. And for some reason, we just used to get a few more goals against them.
Any stats in particular that you're really proud of, Steve, or was it just the whole of your career when you look back?
I think it's, the number of goals I scored in, the total number of games. You look at some of these Premier strikers now, they're sort of about 10 a season and they've done well. And you think, bloody hell, you have to wait 5 games for a goal. I'm thinking, no, I don't think I'd relish that. I was always wanting to score every game. And, my record, I think, was 1 goal every game and a half, I think it ended up being. And, that's not too bad. But, I often think back, could I have scored more? I certainly did have chances. I certainly did miss some. If I'd taken penalties, throughout my career, and I should have done. I don't know for some reason why I didn't have the confidence to do that, because we certainly used to practice them and take them. And, you know, I wish I had sort of done a little bit more on that and took penalties, because, you know, over 9 years, my goodness, you know, I probably would have got the record. So
Bristol City, we shared 11 goals with them. It's a great stadium for you to play at, and you must have a great memory from it, despite the 9-2 goal scoreline.
I do, and you know, I think all those big games when playing in front of very, very big crowds, and you know, that was a wonderful experience. I think we travelled down on the Friday, we stayed overnight, and you know, to go to a ground like that, and you know, on a pitch like that with a crowd like that, you know, we were looking forward to it so much. But you know, to be 5-0 down at half time, I think it was, but you know, I think I got one back 5-1 and really celebrated. Because I thought, you know, this is the comeback, but obviously not. But Bernard had also promised me £100 a goal on that day. So, you know, if it would have been 15-0 down there would have been one hell of a celebration for scoring.
So did you claim John Daly's goal as well?
Sorry?
Did you claim John Daly's goal as well then?
I tried to. I wasn't far off it, but no, it was great. It was a great day out, and, you know, just sad that the score. I remember defending deep on, you know, late on into the game, just to make sure it didn't get to 10, so that, you know, I wouldn't get too much stick at school on Monday morning. But I still did. But it was great to have scored, you know, and to get a replica, you know, a shirt from the Bristol City players after the game was great. It was a great experience, because I think we'd always wanted, you know, that cup run, you know, to be on the telly, to be like the Wokins and all of that, you know, the Aylesburys. And so, yeah, it wasn't quite the fairy tale that we wanted in the end, but a great experience.
And you're the star of another of the iconic St Albans City photos. That image of you celebrating that goal as well. It's just,
I've got that one somewhere. But,
another football league ground, Steve, where you did have happy memories. A big ground, the Valley, Charlton Athletic.
Oh, yeah.
We played Fisher in the final of the London Challenge Cup. It's about the 15th of May, 2 weeks after the season had finished, really. And you still needed 3 goals to claim the highest score by an individual in a season for St Albans City. You did a bit better than that on the day.
I think I got 4, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
Again, I don't think, you know, I've thought too much about that record. I know, you know, you sort of it was 52, I think, and I needed 4 to get the record. And you know, I remember just going down to the Valley, and another lovely ground to play on. And I think, you know, they put up a little bit of resistance to start with, and I think we were 2-0 up at half time. And then, you know, second half, playing up front with Barry Blackman, you know, I think he was probably more aware of the record than I was, and you know, he certainly laid a few on the plate for me that day to help me out. But you know, getting that 4th one meant a hell of a lot to me, and I remember sort of scoring and running across to the left-hand corner where there were no fans whatsoever to celebrate, and then realising I had to go all the way back to where our fans were. But that's the shirt that's behind me. You know, we threw him into the crowd, and I cleverly threw it to Stan Bissinger, who thankfully caught it and looked after it for me. And he's had it for years, but he sort of eventually gave me it back, because that's one that I will certainly frame, and that's going up in the new house in the games room. And you know, that's certainly going to be up there as a great memory for me.
I'm glad you mentioned Stan, because he, along with obviously your late father now, Len, and your mum, Jill, and your sister, Sally, they were great supporters of you throughout your time with us, and I presume with the other clubs as well. Yeah,
you know, they used to come along and watch me, but I think mainly at St Albans. You know, when I went to Canby, it was a lot further around. I think they used to go to some of the away games, Farnborough, etc., you know, where it was close to them. But, you know, they used to love coming along. You know, I think they felt part of the community. You know, they'd come along, and, you know, my mum's still in touch with some of the supporters, which is great. And, you know, Dad loved the experience and being part of it, really. And he'd go to the away games, the home games, and, you know, they loved that Saturday, especially when, you know, our kids came along. You know, they'd look after the 3 boys during the game. They'd go over to play in the sandpit park out the back and, you know, come along for the second half, etc. But, you know, they were good days. And, you know, Sally still talks about it, you know, so, yeah, they're really good.
You still in touch with any of those old players, Steve?
Yes. So we've got a WhatsApp group, so Muddy's on there. Peter Isley, Gurns, Wilco, Roy Edwards, Terry Benning. There's a lot of the old boys on there. So I think we're talking about playing. Is there a St Albans Golf Day coming up in October? So I think we're looking to put a side into that. One of my, you know, fellow teammates, Martin Gittings, I don't know if you're aware that he's got an illness at the moment, and there's a charity game at Stevenage for him on the 5th. There's also a golf day for Stevenage. I think Roy, because he obviously went to Stevenage, I think he is going to look to put a side in for that golf day as well. So, you know, we are still about, and, you know, we try and meet up every so often. I normally play golf with Roy every year, and Peter Risley and a few others. So yeah, we are sort of keeping in touch. It's a little bit harder nowadays, but yeah, it would be good to get all the boys together again.
Anything to add, Lee? Have we got any more questions from supporters?
I haven't got any. Jake, have you got any more?
Add one. Would you rather receive a delivery from Peter Risley or Jimmy King?
Probably Jimmy King, because it would be near me. Peter Risley would probably be growling and it'll hoof far over the back of my head or something. Jimmy King would just put it on a plate for me and, you know, think nothing of it. Peter Risley, if he put a cross on my head and I scored, he'd want half my money for it. So, Jimmy King, even a Scotsman, no, he wouldn't have done. He'd have enjoyed doing that as a pleasure.
You were with him, as you say, at Wivenhoe. Was he the greatest winger you played with?
Yeah, I think so. You know, they had another very good right winger, Keithy Bain, who was a very good player. And at Wivenhoe, you know, it was like the Cockers here. We used to bomb forward. And, you know, I was playing with Martin Gittins up front, you know, very good play. And we had, you know, a quality midfield again with, you know, Brooksy and Lil Fuchillo, a lot of ex-pros who, you know, I think we got promoted the first year. And, you know, there was a classy outfit. But, you know, Jimmy King, by far, probably the best, you know, winger that I'd ever played. So he just used to skip round people, you know, look up, put it on my head, and that was it. You know, it was great. There wasn't a lot of chasing around with him.
And I think we had another one of, what is your favourite goal in a City shirt?
Oh, blimey. That's a tricky one, to be honest.
If you asked me his favourite goal down the park, he'd probably say that blooming Canvey Island one.
Yeah,
no, that did just cross into my mind. I thought I better not mention that. I'm trying to think, actually. One of the most remarkable ones was probably, I don't know, cup game, and the goalkeeper took the goal kick, and I think I just retreated back as you did, and it came straight to me, and I headed it straight back into the goal, and this keeper sort of racing across the goal, and just thinking how bizarre that was, you know, to score a header from about 30 yards. But, you know, there was some great goals, as you say. Probably the ones that were better were the volleys. You know, I think I got one against Windsor and Eton, which was quite a spectacular one, which again surprised me. You know, that Cheshire one was one. The one at Bristol City was really good. The Forest Green one, you know, to get that second goal was great. But, yeah, there were so many. But I think every single one of them gave me pleasure, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to score goals.
That goal where the keeper kindly claims an assist and put it on your forehead, that is actually in your profile on the Saints History website. If they want to look at your profile, they can actually see the name of the poor goalkeeper as we completely embarrassed.
I think he was a bit surprised, as I was, I think, to see it go past him and back into the goal.
Great memories. Anybody else got anything to add?
No, have you been able to get down to City much? And obviously, apart from last year with no fans, I mean, I know you attended a Legends game a couple of years ago, but did you get a chance to go down to Clarence Park much?
I popped down, I think, a few years, obviously before lockdown. I think Muddy was sponsoring a game or something. But yeah, I will get down shortly now that things have calmed down. You know, I'm at Northampton, so I'm only probably an hour away. So yes, I will certainly pop down and pay you all a visit, and it'll be lovely to come back to Clarence Park and see some quality football.
Oh, who are we playing?
Leeds United, hopefully.
All right,
If
okay.
I can.
Right, I think we're pretty much done for now. We might like to have you back on again sometime, I think, Steve. It's
That'll
been
be a
very
pleasure.
enjoyable. Brilliant. It's good to
It's
see you
been
again.
an absolute pleasure, mate. Take care of yourself.
Well, lovely to see you all, and best of luck for the season.
Brilliant.
Cheers,
Thank
Steve.
you very much, Steve.
Cheers,
mate.
guys.